And now, live with the first interview since announcing his presidential campaign, Republican nominee, Ben Carson. Thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here. Tonight, let's start with, what was it like for you growing up as a kid? Well, I was born in 1951 in Detroit, Michigan. Me and my brother grew up in a one-room home with my mother only. My father had left us when I was 8 years old, which was very hard for us. My mother was out working extraordinarily hard as she had 3 jobs while only having a third-grade education to take care of us in dire poverty. And to make it worse for her, I was a terrible student in school and had a horrific temper as a teenager. I would go after people with rocks and hammers, and as many of you already know this about me, when I was 14 and tried to stab one of my friends out of rage. Most of my classmates thought I was the stupidest person in the world and called me a dummy and believed that I would never do anything with my life. My mother couldn't stand the fact that we were doing so poorly in school and took it upon herself to make us learn. She would turn off the TV and make us read books and write her book reports on what we've learned, that she couldn't even read. I began to find great interest in medicine and would be constantly searching for books on the subject. I loved to see how the human body worked and eventually made it to medical school and followed my passion, became a pediatric neurosurgeon, and got here today. Wow. Truly incredible to come this far, Mr. Carson. I understand that you were the first one to ever separate 2 conjoined twins. And if so, what was that like? Yes, me and my team were in fact the first ever to separate 2 conjoined twins. The surgery itself took 22 hours and months of prior preparation to figure out everything and know what we had to do. We had to figure out how to keep the babies from bleeding out while operating on their small little heads. The only way to do this at the time was to stop their hearts completely. We did this by dropping the baby's inner core temperature to about 68 degrees, which stopped all blood flow in their body. We only had about an hour to work before the blood flow had to come back on to prevent permanent damage to the children. We were the first people to ever try such a risky technique. My team and I had to work very meticulously for an extended period of time during the surgery, which was very physically challenging for many of us. But after 22 hours of carefully cutting and operating, the boys were separate for the first time. We placed them in medically induced comas to help them recover, which was a success on their part. And I still remember the day when they woke up, their eyes immediately opened, and as they began to move, we knew we had done it. It was one of the greatest moments of my life, seeing the reaction of their parents the moment they knew they were going to be okay. What was going through your head to come to the conclusion to go through with the surgery? Because I realized that if I didn't do it, they would die. I understand that not all surgeries can be a success. How do you handle the times when things don't go as planned? My philosophy is, do your best and God will do the rest. And if you've read any of my books, you know that God gets all the credit for everything I do, and He also takes all the blame. The only thing we can do as humans is really give our best and hope that it was enough. Wow, a truly inspiring way to look at life. Explain to someone who doesn't know anything about brain surgery and why that has something to do with being president. Because operating on a human brain is very complex, and sometimes we also have situations that require more than just your expertise, as do many situations in the world. We have to find people who know more and better than us at work and work with them. These are not necessarily people who are always willing to compromise with us, and to get them all on the same road, that is how you accomplish things and get it done. In one case, I said, why don't we get 18 people in a department involved? Because we have the #1 neurosurgery department in the country. We have people who are extremely good at vascular neurosurgery and tumor surgery and skull base and tissue. And I said, why don't we design this operation so that we slot each team in when we can get their part where they would be the expert? And we literally 10 hours ahead of schedule. It's an excellent example of selflessness and people not caring who gets the most credit, but people just working together to get it done well. Some of it really has to do with the ability to assimilate a lot of material and make wise choices to use your resources in that order and do it, which can be hard at times in need. Because of this, we were able to accomplish something that was impossible, as are many challenges a president might face. And now, our final question for you, Mr. Carson. You've had an amazing career as a surgeon. Why are you trying to come into politics now? Is there really no one else that could do the job? At first, it was not my intention to join the political field, but after the player breakfast in 2013, there were so many people constantly asking me to join, and I kind of ignored it and figured it would all go away, but it didn't. it just kept building and building, and I started to listen to people and listen to some of their concerns, mainly elderly people who told me that they had given up on America and they were just waiting to die, which was really hard for me to hear. I heard that so many times, and then from younger people who were terrified for their children and grandchildren. People were telling me that politics are a great way to make changes, but it takes a great problem solver. So having had a career as a problem solver, I said, Lord, you know I don't want to do this, but if you open the doors, I'll do it. And that's how I got here today. Thank you for being on the show tonight, Mr. Carson. Back to you in the studio, Dave.